Longtime viewers of my content may remember that I've often said my favorite book is Native Son by Richard Wright. I even had a whole video on the main channel about how the movie adaptations were complete shit, and that I'm hoping that the new one, which I don't even know if they're still making, how I would improve it and make it better. But if I was going to add a caveat to that statement, I would say this is my favorite book academically, as in my favorite book I had to read for school. It was a required book my senior year of high school for honors English, and I loved it. Compared to other books you have to read in high school, I absolutely loved it, and I still do. If you think about things you have to read in high school, it's usually horribly boring dreck, like The Scarlet Letter, just disgusting books that no human should be forced to read. But this one, I feel like it was written with me as an audience member in mind. It was so intense and enthralling. Quite a page-turner for a book you had to read in high school. So that's why I've always had a special place in my heart for this book, and I often say it's my favorite book. But if we're going to leave the realm of academia, books that maybe don't make you think as much, and instead, I guess are just normal page-turners, books that you enjoy. I wouldn't even say it's a guilty pleasure, because I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just, you know, it's not literature. Oh, it's just a fun book. That would be The Passage by Justin Cronin. Not the most thrilling book cover, because I lost my dust jacket long ago. But this is The Passage by Justin Cronin. And that's what, well, that's gonna cover my face. It's so fucking big. That's what I want to talk about with you guys today, and well into next year, and we'll find out why over the course of this video. So the year was 2010, and I was 14, just about to turn 15. My family took a summer family vacation to New York City, the first time I had ever been. I've since been there 2 more times to go hang out with the Asterios Kokonos, which was, both of those were great times. But this time I was with my family. And of course, you all know, between 14 and 15, most kids are pretty edgy, unhappy with their lives, and you know how edgy I was. So when I'm in New York and I see an advertisement, I think it was on a taxi or a billboard or something, for this brand new book called The Passage, an adult book for adults. And there's a quotation on the advertisement from Stephen King, who I've never read any of his books. I'm sure they're delightful. I mean, I know he's like one of the most famous authors of all time. I haven't read it, so I don't know why I took his review to heart, but it said on there, a little blurb from Stephen King, "Read this book, and the normal world disappears." And 14-year-old me thought, yeah, that'd be nice, huh? The normal world disappears. I sure would like to disappear into a whole new world. And I think what he meant by that is the book is just so thick and so dense with words. This isn't Harry Potter Order of the Phoenix levels of just 16-point font, read each page in less than a minute. This is like 1 minute minimum per page, unless you have just a lightning fast reading level. So it's a big, thick book that takes a long time to get through. And it's not even the only one. This is the first of a trilogy, the next of which being the 12, and then the final book being The City of Mirrors, but I don't think we'll need to get into those anytime soon. So I forced my parents while on vacation to go buy this book, and I spend all the time at the airport and the flight home reading it, and then it probably took me another, probably like a year and a half to finish it. But this book is very important to me, and I really want to dive into why, and why I am so furious. These novels are really about, to me, what it would take for all of human history to be forgotten, for the world to go through a cleanse, and for everything we know and easily accept as being just fact about where we came from and what society is like, what it would take for all of that to become a myth and for people to not believe it. All this, of course, doesn't happen until the very end of the final book, but you need the whole trilogy of books to see this in action. And there's no real good way for me to put this, and hopefully it does not scare you all away from into thinking that this book is Drek as well as all those other things. But it is about a viral outbreak of vampirism or vampirism. But it's not like the Twilight teeny bopper vampire shit. It's more like these people have just become monsters and that are super strong and fast, and they just want to fucking eat other people. It's really more like fast zombies, but I don't know. It's like it's a hybrid. They hardly ever use the word vampire in the books, and God bless them, because I don't want to tell people my favorite book is a fucking vampire book. It's more about the characters who are alive and trying to survive. But one of the main points I'm trying to get to is that this book right here, The Passage, is single-handedly the book that inspired me to become a writer. As I was reading it, I thought, this is just, it's so dense, and there's over 5,000 named characters who you get to know, and I was really into that. When it comes to writing and reading, I'm more of a character and story kind of guy. I don't care about the details, and these books really, as big and long and as much detail as they go into, they don't waste your time with scenery, with what the room looks like. And that's what I really appreciate. If you've read my book, The Triflers, there's almost no description of what rooms and places look like. Because me, as a writer and as a reader, I don't care. I care about characters. If you want to give me a 30-page description of something that this character went through, even if it seems superfluous to the overall story that is trying to be told, I would rather be bogged down in just getting to know the characters at a cellular level rather than knowing what the scenery looks like. So these books have so many characters, and you get so much detail and so much backstory on them, and they go on so many adventures, and you see them over the course of, in some cases, literally 400 years in one such case. So The Passage inspired me, and in high school, thanks to reading this book, I wrote 2 full novels, both of which, inspired by the length, definitely, both of which were about 500 pages long, so a direct sequel. So it was like a 1,000-page story that I wrote in high school. It's god-awful. It's horrible. You can tell that a 14, 15-year-old wrote it, and hopefully it will never see the light of day. I might make a video about it sometime. Maybe I'll even sell it on Kindle for $2.99 someday, but don't hold your breath. Then one day in high school, I found out that the film rights for The Passage were sold to Fox for, I think it was like $1 or $2 million, some crazy good deal for Justin Cronin. I was happy for him, because this is like his first big breakout book. This whole trilogy is probably set for life now. I mean, definitely, if you got paid that much just for the movie rights. But I was personally disgusted. I thought, no! You cannot turn this into a singular movie. There's no possible fucking way. And I'll tell you why. Because just the first 200 pages alone of this book, the first 200 pages are like a prologue for everything that is to come. It takes place not necessarily in the modern day, but like just a few years in the future. And in the first 200 or so pages, you get to know in depth like 30 different characters, and you really grow to love these characters and you bond with them. And it's the setup of this human experimentation out in the jungle somewhere. They found like a virus that made everybody sick and die, but they're like, oh, but it's a story that's been told a million times. It's not super original in that aspect, but it's like, oh, but what if we could do government experiments and make super soldiers if we could just get this serum to work? And they're doing experiments on inmates who are sentenced to be put to death because they did violent crimes, and you get to know some of the inmates, and you're like, oh, but this one, maybe he didn't do it, he's just mentally retarded, and then the guy who's running the whole operation, Richards, he's a big dick asshole, and he's fucking sociopath, and he just he doesn't care about the government or the military. He just wants to fucking be in control and do all this crazy shit. But then you have the FBI agent Brad Wolgast, who's going around collecting these inmates and convincing them to sign their lives away to be part of this experiment, and he has to lie to them and convince them to do this. But then the main character, who is the only character Well, it's not the only one, but the only character... Well, it is. Only one character is introduced on page 1 of the first book, and is still around on the last page of the final book, and that is a young girl named Amy, who the story revolves around, and she's the character we follow from very beginning to very end, and she gets tied into this through a whole bunch of shenanigans. But the point I'm getting to, is that after those 200 pages, and when everything goes wrong with the testing and all the experiments break out and they start attacking everybody and turning them into vampires and is world's in chaos, the book, in the next chapter, the book skips ahead like 90 or 120 years or some crazy thing. And every single character, except for two or three that we were introduced to, they're all dead and gone. The book just skips ahead. Well, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to skip. It's just, you know, the whole world's getting killed. And all these characters that we just got to know are just gone. And it was so, amazing to me as a teenager, in the sense of, like, I didn't know you could do that. That is fucked. It's fucking with my head that I invested so much time into getting to know these characters, and now it's just like, they're all dead. Let's introduce a brand new cast of characters 250 pages into the book. But two, it was inspirational, and I thought, you know, maybe storytelling isn't as cut and dry as I've always thought it was. Maybe you can just do these crazy, wacky things that both fuck with the reader, but also, I mean, it's invigorating in a sense. And that time skip where almost every character is just dead was, I mean, it had a huge impact on the way I want to tell stories, I guess I'll say. So in my mind, you can make a really good movie out of those first 200 pages, but there's no possible way you could adapt the full book into, what, a 2-hour movie? No fucking way! It would be impossible. That's the first 200 out of like 900. Then we introduce a whole new society and cast of characters of the survivors and what it's like in daily life trying to survive in this apocalypse and all that. It keeps going on. Anyway, I haven't reread the book in full since I was a teenager, but actually, a few months ago, you might remember there was a hurricane coming to my house. It was around when I made the hurricane survival guide, and our power went out. So I thought, hey, I'm gonna reread this book. And I'm actually about at the time skip part right now, because I mean, it's been a few months since that. But I'm I wouldn't say a slow reader, but I haven't had a whole lot of time to dedicate to rereading it. I mean, I took it down to Rusty Cage's house when I went to his place for a week and read it a lot on the plane and stuff. But coincidentally, with all that in mind, last week, me and Sheepover went out to dinner at a restaurant. And I saw in the bar area, on the far end of the building, there's a TV, and we were waiting to get a table, and I was bored, and I was just looking at it, so small, off in the distance, and I see a commercial on television. And it just looked like complete schlock. There was like this little hunched over demon girl with blood all over her face. And I'm like, what the fuck? And then it's like some, you know, detective cop guy walking with like a little tiny black girl. And I'm thinking, that looks like it's gonna be hot garbage. And then the screen says in big bold text, "The Passage, only on Fox." And I almost had an aneurysm. I shouted out loud at the restaurant, "What?" And I pull out my phone, and surely enough, instead of making a movie, Fox has decided they're going to adapt, I assume, the whole trilogy of books into a television series, which, to be fair, is the way, if gun to my head, I have to adapt these into some form of media, that's how I would do it. I wouldn't do it on Fox. And it seems clear to me that I mean, there's no possible way. I will, if I'm wrong on this in the future, if I'm proven to be wrong, I will eat this book. I will eat the whole thing somehow. But I'm just saying right now, I'm putting this out into the universe. It's not gonna happen. For whatever reason, whether the show gets canceled because it's shit, or it gets poor viewership, or the entire series will not be adapted in this Fox show. And judging by the trailer, they're only focusing on all the stuff before the big time skip. I imagine that would be the entirety of season 1. And if the show got picked up for a second season, they would do, I guess, the time skip after that. And it's going to be very jarring to general audiences that all the characters from season 1 are just vanished and gone and dead. But before I go any further into this, I would like to watch the trailer with all of you and point out specifically why it made me so furious, other than just that it looks like complete shit. And I do want to preface this reaction video by saying adaptions can't be identical to the book. I get it. I know people were upset that the Harry Potter movies didn't include spew or whatever that Hermione wants to help the house elves. Like, I get it. It can't be a direct translation. The book cannot be the screenplay for the show. But you have to have the essence of what the source material is. You have to have a basic understanding of it. You can't change the characters so much that they no longer reflect the characters in the source material. Because in my mind, if you're going to change things to a degree that it's not even recognizable, that the essence of the characters and the story and the book itself, if the essence is gone, then don't call it The Passage. Because you're not doing The Passage anymore. You were clearly inspired by the book, but this TV version is not the same thing. And unfortunately, after I watched the trailer in full on YouTube, which evidently had been up for 6 months, so I don't know how I'm just now hearing about this, I've got several reasons to believe they are betraying the source material to such a degree that it is disgusting to even be calling it The Passage. Because all they're gonna do, what are they trying to, I mean, this is a New York Times bestseller, but it's from 2010. I don't know if it was big enough that name recognition alone will make people want to watch the show. And by calling it that, when you make it so different and horrible, you would think that the built-in target audience would be fans of the book. But when you make it so bad and different, you're just gonna piss those people off immediately. So I don't know why you don't just call it something else, but we'll get into the specifics in a sec. Let's watch this fucking trailer. Okay, I don't know why they do these mini trailers before actual trailers these days. It's kind of annoying, but whatever, that's fine.
We represent a government medical organization called Project.
So this is Brad Wolgast, the real hero of the first 200 pages of the book. As a kid, or I guess as a teenager, I always imagined him being played by Leonardo DiCaprio, but of course, I mean, I can't knock it for not getting one of the biggest A-list actors of our generation. So this guy's, he's fine, whatever. But they're talking to one of the inmates, and I hate talking with the cans on because it makes me want to talk louder, I think. This is Anthony Carter, who you get a whole bunch about him in the book. He's like the main inmate who they focus on, the story on, as far as the inmates go. In the first book, at least. In the third book, the main, patient zero, there is like a 250, like an entire novel's worth of his backstory, which I understand. This is why I don't really want to recommend these books to people. I just want to share why I love them and my frustrations with this show. But I wouldn't really recommend it because I can understand why most people probably don't want a full novel's worth of backstory for one character within a 900-page book. But like I said earlier, I really love just getting to know characters and characterization. So, I mean, it was delightful for me. But let's keep watching it, and then I'll tell you where they're fundamentally already fucking up Anthony Carter.
Noah.
Ridley Scott, I mean,
We're on
that's
the verge of an
promising.
exciting breakthrough, a drug that makes people immune to disease.
What does this have to do with me?
We're offering you a second chance.
Now, oh, I know it doesn't have to be the same, but they've already, just in these 20 seconds, I can tell they don't know, they didn't really read who this character is. Anthony Lloyd Carter is a black, 5'4", skinny to the bone, homeless guy who is mentally retarded. All of that is very important because his inner turmoil is that he's accused of drowning a woman who picked him up off the street and gave him a job mowing her lawn, but he didn't do it. It was like a misunderstanding. She was committing suicide because she was so unhappy in her marriage, and she sort of like jumps into the pool with him, and like he's the little black guy, the homeless little black guy, so of course he gets blamed and framed as murder, but he's mentally retarded, so he doesn't really even understand what happened. He's just like, well, they're saying I did it, but I mean, maybe I did. I don't know what happened with that woman. I really did love her. And it's written like fucking Charlie Gordon from Flowers for Algernon, like literally in the book when it's from his perspective, like shit is spelled wrong and stuff. So just to see this big, buff, bald, black guy speaking just with like a tinge of a southern accent, he's not fucking mentally retarded, it already has me enraged. But I guess, I mean, I guess having one of the very few black characters in the show be mentally retarded, but wait, no, that's wrong, because they commit the ultimate sin of gender and race bending important characters, and we'll get to that, god damn it. Let's keep going.
You have the opportunity to take part in a drug trial. I know what I'd do.
You ever wonder what happens to these homicidal maniacs once they get in that elevator?
I don't think about it.
We're looking at a global pandemic. You get exposed at breakfast, you're dead by dinner.
I got something. Nobody's gonna like.
I mean, that never happens. Ever. They're doing experiments on these inmates to like build super soldiers out of them, and you don't really see the pandemic. It's like they all break out. Brad takes the little girl Amy and they go hide up in the mountains, and then it just skips ahead, and there's no, I don't know how they have scenes of scientists watching the outbreak happen. It's just stupid. They're dumbing it down to actual vampire outbreak schlock when it's really not that at all. It's more about characters and survival and getting. I feel like they're just dumbing it down so much for general audiences, but that's what you gotta do when you're making a TV show, I guess. Oh, it's upsetting to me.
Though.
Yeah, well, I have a very open mind right now.
Patient 0. After a short period of accelerated healing, he declined into this. He's immune to disease, lethal and ugly as hell. But we're still making progress. It's not just tweaks to the formula, it's age.
Don't know why there's girls there. They have the patient 0 guy and then the 12 inmates who they do the experiments on. There were no girls. I mean, they're just fucking trying to diversify this shit for no reason. It was 12 men who they experimented on. I mean, it's not a big thing, but it is just slightly annoying to me. And of course, they will start race bending the characters for no reason too, to a detriment. And I'll tell you why. You could make Captain America black. I don't give a fuck. But if you're gonna change a character's race and that affects the actual story from the source material, that's when it's like, well, so you try to diversify and it was to the detriment of the source material. Good job, you fucks. Here we go.
Are you suggesting we try with the child?
No, a child would come through with 0 side effects. You wanted a solution. This is it.
How feasible is it to find a child?
Just a matter of finding a kid with no family.
The CDC wants you to see a specialist in Colorado.
How come there's no social worker? And how come they didn't send a lady? They...
Okay, so this is Amy. Surprise, surprise. Amy was like a 6-year-old, a white girl. What I really like about Justin Cronin, I mean, what really, the personal connection I have is that he went to the Iowa Writers Workshop, and of course I'm from Iowa, and the opening pages of the book take place in Iowa, because that's where Amy, the main character, is from. As a former Iowan, let me tell you, we have about a 4% black population, so I don't know, it's not super likely. Maybe they're changing where she's from. I don't think... The only black family I knew had moved to my school from South Sudan, so not a lot of naturalized African-American people in Iowa. But, you know, if that's the choice they want to make, that's fine. But they fucked with the character. And I'm only halfway through her first line of dialogue. But let me tell you, folks, let me tell you how the essence of Amy has been ruined. Because even though she is the main character of almost 3,000 pages of story, Amy probably has, over the course of the whole trilogy, 100 lines of dialogue max. She is basically mute, and for the majority of all the books, she is literally physically mute due to things that happen to her. At no point does she give sassy lines of dialogue to anybody. And I find it racist that not only, sure, race bend the character, but when you feel the need to make the black character automatically sassy and talking back with all these little sassy quips, when the character in the book doesn't even fucking speak, that's a choice you made. You can make her talk, but you have to make her talk. Y'all are fucking racist. You ruined the character and you made it racist. It makes me so angry. It makes me so angry. Amy can be black, but she doesn't fucking talk. She doesn't talk. And she's meeting with Brad Woolgast at a fucking house? Are you just cutting out the whole story? And I'm not gonna go into the whole thing, but Amy's mother was a single mom prostitute. And she accidentally killed a guy, so she drops off Amy at a nunnery. I don't know what those are called, but a convent. It's a nunnery. And that's, the nuns call it into the police, and that's how the government knows, oh, there's a, Amy, no last name. She was just dropped off, she has no family. This will be perfect for the experiments, because we want to experiment on a child. She has nobody even knows that she exists. Let's just go get her. But they never I don't even think this is at the orphanage. And one of the most important characters in the first book at the orphanage is the nun that Amy becomes friends with, who is black. She is the only black character at the orphanage. All the other nuns are white, and Amy is drawn to this character because they're both different. They're both the outsiders. Amy, being abandoned by her family and left alone, and the black nun she's like a refugee from some African country, doesn't really get along with the white nuns. So when you make Amy black too, it's like, well then, it's like the whole point is that the nun was the only black one. And now, I don't even think there's nuns in this thing. Because the detective, Brad Woolgast, never meets Amy at the nunnery. The nun takes Amy to the zoo, and that's where they kidnap her. And it's a big commotion. They never meet Amy at the nunnery, and she says some sassy fucking shit to her, or she says sassy shit to them. Never. And I get you have to change things for the adaptation, but you're changing it so much that it's not even the same fucking story! Why? Why the fuck?
They always send a lady.
They just sent us.
Can you live with this?
Fucking sassy shit.
Or millions of people died.
Ugh.
Just making a break for it. Come on!
Nothing like this happens.
If you touch the kid again,
It
I'll
looks
shoot you
so
in the
cheap
face.
and shitty.
Does it hurt?
Oh
you
my
maniacs?
god, it's so shit. It just
Explain
looks
why
like
you need the
garbage.
I want the kid because I said I want the kid. You need to bring her in.
There you go.
It's like a
Breakfast.
joke. Like somebody said, let's make a joke shitty trailer.
It's a bad place.
It is?
Yeah, so we gotta find someplace safe, which means you're gonna have to trust
Like,
me.
and they're spoiling, I mean, just the whole season. Long into the adventure, you know, the agents kidnap Amy, and they have to make their way across the state to drop her off at the facility in Colorado. But like, you know, 3/4 of the way through the first section of the book, Brad decides to go AWOL, or he's like, nah, man, this is too much. I relate. This kid is like my daughter, because my daughter died, and that's his big hang-up, is that his daughter's dead, and that's why he takes a special liking to Amy and goes against. He decides to throw his life away and go against the fucking government because he wants to save this kid. But you know, that big revelation, let's just show that 2 minutes into the trailer. I guess. Just spoil the whole fucking show, I guess. Okay.
So we gotta find someplace safe.
That's
you're
the
gonna have to trust me.
zombie shit I was talking about.
know
It just
you
looks
may not-
Okay.
stupid.
Okay?
Yeah, I trust you. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's go.
A nationwide
Let's get the hell out of here. Yeah, that's what Amy would fucking say. Ugh!
manhunt is underway for this man. They believe he is armed and dangerous. We need this contained. Do what you have to do.
I know he's your friend.
It's so cheap.
Where are we going?
The only thing that matters is that you're safe. They won't be able to hurt you. You can do anything you want with your life. Come with me. Let's go. Let's go.
Give me the girl.
I'm not gonna leave you. It's gonna be okay.
We're talking panic and chaos.
Your life is important.
There's the passage. Great. And I've been thinking about what I was gonna say in this video for. I mean, ever since I saw the trailer, I knew I was gonna do something with this and talk about it here. And this is really episode 0 of my upcoming review series when the show starts, I think in January, where I'm gonna, I mean, forget Young Sheldon. You know, I know I did those meme podcasts. Oh, I have to review every episode of Young Sheldon. I have to review every episode of Living Biblically. But this is something I actually fucking care about. This is something I'm very passionate about. Something that has affected and changed my life. Literally, this book did. And it's just a bastardization, disgusting, cheap, unauthentic. This adaptation, this fucking show. It has me so up in arms. And I know there's so much more I wanted to say. And I spend endless hours sitting in bed thinking about how angry this makes me and all the points I wanted to make. But I mean, I feel like I've said everything I need to say so far. I'm so disappointed by this trailer, and I know this show is gonna be shit. So I'll see you in January, where Mumkey reviews every episode of The Passage. And I have to imagine it's going to be canceled before season 1 comes to a close. I mean, if I know Fox, they cancel shows whether they're good or bad. I would be insanely curious to see how they tackle adapting all 3 of the books. But I know that's not going to happen. So I just pray that it gets canceled ASAP. They should not have done this. And I'm so upset. And this video is probably shit because nobody cares, but I do. And I'll make videos about whatever the fuck I want. So with all that being said, I'll see you, I guess, next month, if that's really when this is coming out, with Mumkey reviews every episode of The Passage on Fox. Fuck you, Fox. This is shit.